same chains, traveler. Why do you resist?
Hey guys, I'm back in last Epoch with another build guide. This time it's sort of a special build, you could say. We're playing Meteor with the cast on crit Meteor belt. And we're playing it on a sorcerer, but we're playing sort of like a Spellblade type of build. And I think the easiest way to kind of explain this is, you might have seen in the intro, but let's just quickly run a monolith. I just actually reset this, but let's just do like some monolith so you guys can kind of see what the build looks like. Alright, so this build is, we're using mainly Mana Strike, and basically all we do is just, you know, push Mana Strike. And we have a lot of things proccing to actually be able to reliably cast our Meteor, and we have pretty much almost have 100% uptime on these Meteors. Sometimes, you know, you will get kind of unlucky and not actually get a proc, but for the most part, it is pretty consistent with the procs, and it's just because we have so many things that we're actually proccing that are actually critting and then activating the belt. So the belt actually only does have like a 9% chance on crit, so it is very low. But you know, if you have about 6 to about 8 different things critting at the same time, then that 9%, you know, jumps up to like a 50-60% crit chance. So I think we're just going to go run over to the boss if we can without dying. The build is definitely not really super tanky. It is, we do have quite a lot of like ward generation when we're actually in combat, but when we're not in combat or when we're not actually able to hit things, then things can get a little bit sketchy because, you know, you can see we only have about 1k health, and oh well, so okay, everything's dead. Great. Do we need any of these? Maybe I'll just take the boots, and don't really need the gloves. Okay, so that's like sort of like a mono. You can see the corruption level isn't really that high yet. I'm still trying to push higher on this build, but let's kind of get into what we're doing real quick. Okay, so I guess the main problem with this belt, there's two problems. The first, I guess, issue is reliably proccing the Meteor, and we're proccing the Meteor with quite a lot of things. So first of all, if you look, we have the Mana Strike, right? So we got Mana Strike, that is, you know, 100% crit. And then we have this Battle Mage's Endeavor. So decided to go with this sword because this is proccing Lightning Blast on hit, right? So we have Lightning Blast also over here, and this is kind of like set up just to repeat two single targets. So this Lightning Blast ends up hitting 3 times, and then the Lightning Blast is also going to be proccing this what do you call it, Spark Nova. And then we also have these Spark Charges, right? So we got Spark Charges that can also crit, and we got the Mana Strike. Then I guess also once the Meteor procs, the Meteor is shooting about 6 different Meteors out, and each one of those can crit as well. So we do have like a lot of these sort of effects that are proccing on hit, and the combination of the Mana Strike plus the Lightning Blast hitting 3 times, and then the what do you call it, Spark Nova, and then we also have the Spark Nova in the Sorcerer over here. So we also have this Spark Nova over here too. And then the Spark Charges. So like the combination of all of those together makes it so that you're so this 9% chance ends up being more like a 60% chance. You know, if you have, you know, in a perfect scenario where everything is critting, then you have like 70% chance to proc this every second when we're attacking, basically, and we're attacking pretty fast. So the uptime on the Meteor proc is actually really good. So I guess the second problem is going to be the mana, but I guess, you know, we are using Mana Strike, and we're spec'd into the ranged Mana Strike, and going for a lot of this mana recovery on crit, and then also mana gain when we hit a rare or boss. The mana gain on kill doesn't really matter, but basically Mana Strike takes care of our mana issues, and all we have to do is just spam Mana Strike, and then Meteors just proc, we go below mana, and then we go negative mana, and then we just keep Mana Striking, we go above negative, and then the Meteors proc, and it's kind of like your mana is constantly just like jumping up and down. Pretty interesting. But okay, so that's sort of like the intro for the build. Let's get into some of the gear that we're using. Now, my gear, I'm just going to say it's not, definitely is not like optimal gear. I'm still actually like, you know, trying to figure out different ways to improve this build. So this is definitely not the final version of the build, which is kind of like the initial build that I've actually like settled on and have been able to comfortably start pushing corruption, higher level corruption with, while I farm different uniques for, you know, LP and stuff like that. See, my sword is only a 1 LP sword. I did drop a 2 LP one like over here, and you can see it kind of whiffed, like completely whiffed, and missed the T6 attack speed and then the fire damage I had on it. So it was kind of sad, but this legendary level for this is pretty low, so getting a high LP one shouldn't be that hard. I mean, you say that, but I've been farming this mono for like forever and haven't actually gotten the thing to drop. But anyway, so let's go over some of the gear. Let's start off first of all with this weapon here. This is sort of like the core item of the build, and I did try with other weapons, you know, like I've tried with wands, with scepters, and nothing really felt all that like consistent. Like, so the damage definitely will go up if you're using a scepter or a wand on the meteor, just because you're getting a lot more of this flat spell damage. And you don't know about this, but meteor has 900% effectiveness of added damage, right? So, and that's just pretty insane, right? 900% effectiveness of added damage is just like kind of like pretty crazy, right? You see, lightning blast has, I think it's like 200%, right? No, 100%, right? And a lot of other spells, they're like added damage is 100% effectiveness. You look at volcanic orb, 100% effectiveness. Let's look at the fireball, 125%. But then if you look at meteor, it's 900% effectiveness of added damage. That's pretty insane, right? So meteor is definitely pretty good with a flat added spell damage scaling, but that's also kind of something that we are lacking on this build because we're using the two-handed sword, so we can't get actually any spell damage, right? But thankfully this sword does come with a little bit of cold and lightning spell damage. That's pretty nice. So about 46%, 40 plus 43 added damage. Yeah, I did try a lot of other weapons and nothing really did feel good, as good as proccing these lightning blasts that hit the target 3 times, right? So you're gonna have like a lot more downtime on these meteors. It just really didn't feel consistent. And another good thing about with this weapon is that it actually makes our Mana Strike do quite a lot of damage. You can see just with the Mana Strike, and then the Mana Strike proccing the lightning blasts, and then the lightning blast proccing this halo effect thing, and then also getting this distant spark, and then also the spark charges is actually enough to kill off just like normal enemies in like 2 hits basically, right? And then rares, you can actually even just kill rares without like even the belt, right? So if we can just see in a mono real quick, let's just take the belt off so we can kind of see the damage of just, you know, the Mana Strike part, right? So even just with this Mana Strike and the you know, lightning blast kind of combo, you can see it's not really like really insane damage, but it is sort of, you know, enough damage to kind of kill enemies whenever you do get unlucky streaks. And you do sometimes get these unlucky streaks, but you know, it's not really all that often once you have everything set up properly. All right, so this weapon, I definitely recommend using this. You can try other weapons, but it's not going to feel as good. Anyways, so that's the weapon. All right, so for other uniques, I guess let's go over this belt. So this belt is, I think it's sort of a new-ish kind of item, but you do want the roll to be at least 9%. Like if you have a 6% chance, it's going to drastically decrease your meteor procs, because like say you have 6 different things that are, you know, critting every second, right? Let's just say, you know, for the sake of an example, then that, you know, 9% chance goes like all the way up to about, you know, like 50-60% chance. But if it's only a 6%, then you're, you know, gonna drop pretty low on your consistency. So definitely prioritize getting a max roll on the chance to proc the meteor. And you see, I actually did get pretty lucky with this legendary. I got the cooldown recovery speed and some fire damage. Now cooldown recovery speed, pretty nice on all mage builds. It's going to kind of give us a little bit more uptime on the enchant weapon and our flame ward and stuff like that. All right, so for other uniques, so ring of the third eye, this ring is pretty much is going to give you all the ward sustain you need. So you can see 30% chance on crit to gain 18 ward, right? So since we're critting from, you know, 6-7 different things at a time, you can imagine that is quite an insane amount of ward per second. And I did in some monos, or I did get up to about 8,500 ward in combat, so that was pretty crazy. It does come with the downside of having the -30 crit multi, but honestly, like when I was playing without this, the build was way too squishy. And I did try to use these idols. There's these idols with like chance to gain 20%, chance to gain 20 ward on hit with melee attacks, right? Anyways, but the problem with that is it's only going to proc off the mana strike, right? So but this thing will proc off everything, like our spells, our spark novas, everything is going to actually be generating ward. So you definitely do want to have this on hit instead of like on melee hit. All right, and for the other item, I'm actually using a set item, and I don't really know if this is like really needed, but you can actually just run 2 of these and have insane defense. Of course, you're going to have -60 crit multi, but you know, in the end of the day, you're kind of like a turret with this build. You just kind of want to just stand still and just attack, right? And then everything around you dies. And if you can't actually do that, like if you can't just, you know, sustain your ward while you're doing this, then there's really no point in the build, because you're just going to like run around, try to do some attacks, run around, do some attacks. It's not really going to feel that good. So you need to have good enough defense where you can kind of stand your ground and just keep attacking, right? So definitely recommend that even just like 2 of these, or 1 of these, or 1 of these, or maybe, you know, a nice rare ring if you really need it. But this ring is very nice. You can see it has chance to shock on spell hit, which is very nice. It's going to give us a higher chance to stun, and then a 10% chance to gain 75 ward when you hit a shocked enemy. So this is actually pretty nice for sustain as well. Not as consistent as the Ring of the Third Eye, but definitely is very nice. And very good on bosses, because the boss is always going to be shocked. But like in monos, it's not as consistent, because everything you hit isn't really going to be shocked at first. And a lot of things just die in 1 hit. So you're not really getting as much value in monos, but against bosses, this ring is pretty insane. All right, so main reason I wanted to use this ring actually is not, I guess, well, the ward on hit part is very nice, but the plus 13 lightning spell damage, like I said, this build is lacking on flat added damage, so anywhere you can get flat damage is very nice. And this comes with 13, so that is a pretty high number. And I guess, like I said, this is still sort of like a work in progress build, so things might change in the future. But this is sort of the combo I have settled on for now. All right, so for the helmet, Prismatic Gaze, gonna be extremely good for the build, just mainly for the base crit chance that you get. Also, the less elemental damage taken is pretty nice. It does actually let you set up a nice little combo against bosses. So if we use a skill that costs over 40 mana, we release all of the prism shards that this item makes to give us some penetration, or I guess not penetration, but it shreds their resistances. So that is very nice. So we can actually just cast our meteor before a boss fight, and then we'll proc this helmet, right? So because meteor is costing 126 mana, so we're going to proc that every time we cast meteor. This won't work when you're triggering the meteor. You actually have to cast it yourself. All right, so for the next part is going to be some rare items. Basically, you want to get as much attack speed as you can get. You can see my attack speed is now at 168%, and once I do get that T7 attack speed on this, it's going to be over 200%, probably. I think T6 is up to like 70 something, right? So that's another 30% there basically. So we're going to be almost at about 200% increase attack speed, and attack speed is actually something you really want to be scaling on this build because, well, first of all, attack speed is going to increase the amount of times that you are attacking, right? So you're going to proc things more often. You're going to proc more lightning blasts. You're going to do more mana strikes. You're going to get more of these like halo or these spark novas. The static charge does have a 0.7-second cooldown to explode, but you can be attacking faster and stacking a lot more of those. And also it's going to be giving you a lot more mana back, right? So that's like the one of the big things is you need to get mana back fast enough to basically get out of the negative mana zone, because when you're in the negative mana zone you cannot proc the meteors, right? So you want to get out of that negative mana as soon as possible so you can actually proc your next meteor. All right, so attack speed definitely going to be one of the main stats you want to scale on the build. After that, I'd say for most items you're going to want to get crit, increased critical strike chance until you actually have I'm not really sure the exact number, and I don't really think you need to get like 100% everywhere. You see, I'm only at 48% right now, but this is actually not really counting. Let's say, for example, actually accidentally respec this. Okay, so it's not counting in like this +3 on the lightning blast tree. So lightning blast is going to be quite a bit higher, maybe about 60-70% crit. And so you really don't need 100%. It's kind of like you just kind of have to play it and get to the point where you feel like you're getting enough procs, right? So if you go into a mono and you're attacking, you want the meteors to proc like almost instantly, right? So you kind of have to get a feel for it. And once you're comfortable with the amount of times you're proccing your meteors, and you can stop going into actual crit strike and go into crit multi. And crit multi is going to be extremely big for the build, obviously, because everything is critting, so it's going to be a big damage increase. Other than that, you should be getting flat added spell damage wherever you can actually roll it. All right, so after that, let's look at the chest. I got a +4 mana strike, and actually getting mana strike as high as possible is going to be very very good. I can see because I have this +4, I'm actually able to get extra spark charges here. If I only had a +2, then I would only have 1 point here, and I would have to actually get more points on the Spellblade tree, and maybe even get some more idols for the spark charge chance and stuff like that. So yeah, try to get mana strike as high as possible. Extra levels to meteor is pretty nice. Maybe you could go for the spell crit instead. Oh, and I did actually forget to mention, so I was trying out, instead of prismatic gaze, I was trying out some other helmets. Let's see. Anyway, so I was using, yeah, these rare helmets, and it was actually okay. The proc chance didn't feel as bad as not having the prismatic gaze, and obviously if you use the rare helmet you can roll. I think the probably the best one is the spell crit, and then doubled if you have 300% mana, and then you can also get like plus lightning blast, but I guess plus lightning blast isn't going to be all that impactful. Maybe you could get some, you know, ward on hit, stuff like that. So really not that impactful, but then again, you can be rolling armor on the, if you get a rare helmet, which is going to be very nice. All right, rest of the gear. So this gear isn't really actually all that good. I do want to change a lot of the stuff here. So I have this mana on this. Well, this I think mainly because I didn't really have something else, another pair of gloves at the moment. And you can see with our mana, we have 318 mana. Our meteor costs 126. So when we're at full mana, we can get 3 meteor casts off for negative mana. And I guess I did try this with lower mana, with like 200 mana, and it's still totally fine. But having a little bit more mana does kind of, I think, make the build feel a little bit better, because you have a little bit more breathing room to actually cast your spells. One of the downsides of playing this build is that we're proccing this meteor so often that a lot of the time we're actually at negative mana. And so when you're at negative mana, you can't teleport, you can't cast your flame ward. So yeah, having a little bit more mana does make that kind of feel a little bit better. All right, so basically you just want to prioritize, I guess, attack speed. And actually I was actually going life on all of my gear, and you can see I only have about 1k life, but I decided to actually just go full in on the ward, ward for defense. So instead of life, I'm slowly changing all of my stuff over to armor. So you can see I get some armor on my boots. I do need to recraft my relic and my amulet and my gloves, and possibly this ring too. This needs to be recrafted, and also my chest. I just haven't found another +4 to mana strike yet. So we'll recraft those in the future. Right, and yeah, so basically attack speed, armor, intelligence, crit chance, crit multi. Those are the stats you're looking for. Okay, so let's go over some of these idols. Now, idols is something I'm also trying to experiment with. My idols are kind of a mess right now. Did want to get a lot of ward retention, right? So getting some of these ward retention idols. I only have 2 of them at the moment, and I think if I did have 4 of these, I would just use 4 of these. Right, so ward retention idols can be good. Another good idol is these chance to apply spark charge on melee hit. And then there's also ones that have lightning critical strike chance. Those are actually very good too. Plus any kind of plus spell damage, very good too. You could actually just use a whole bunch of these. +4 spell damage all over the place here and get a lot of damage. And let's see, so here, yeah, so we have some crit chance spell damage for these big idols. That's very nice. I actually really like this combo here. And then yeah, this is actually a really bad idol. I should probably replace this. I don't really think I had a better one. But anyways, yeah, so here is the ward on melee hit. These could be good too. But I think at the end of the day, you do want to actually have good defense. And so getting these ward retention idols is going to be probably the better option. Just getting 4 of these ward retention idols, and then getting health ward retention or ward retention elemental resistance or some kind of resistance, right? So that might be the best option at the end of the day. All right, so let's go over the skills. So we got mana strike over here. We're going over here, getting the max attack speed. Definitely get 4 points here. And then we'll come up to get the teleporting strikes. We get the ranged option. Now I was playing this as melee to start off with, without this, mainly because you get more mana, right? And you know it. And I know this this doesn't affect this crit node here, and I don't really think it actually affects this node here either. But even though we have all this mana gain, we're still going negative mana, minus 120 mana and stuff like that. So getting out of that, getting your mana back as fast as possible was like something I was thinking of in the beginning. And so I wasn't going this, but the build just isn't tanky enough to just run into melee, and then you get all these mobs, ranged mobs that kite you, and it really wasn't good. It was dying a lot, and it just didn't really feel all that smooth to play. So, but once I went over to the ranged part, everything just kind of changed. And even though I'm getting a little bit less mana, it does feel a lot better, and I'm still proccing the meteors. Like I can just stand on the dummy or on a boss and just mana strike, and there's never really a time where there's like nothing happening, right? Meteors are always proccing and casting, and there's always consistent damage. So I think going the ranged option was a good idea. Now you might think with all of this like crit we have, we probably don't need this 40% base crit, and maybe get some crit multi on your mana strike. And I did test this out, but so here's the problem. When you're out of mana, you're not going to be critting a lot, right? Because we have this node here to give us base crit based on our current mana. But when we're out of mana is when we actually need to get mana back the most. And so we're not going to be proccing this mana gained on crit node if we don't have this when we're at like negative mana. So I guess, yeah, not really the end of the world, because mana strike isn't really our main damage skill. But yeah, it's something I did test out. And definitely do need this node over here too to make it feel good. Okay, and then after that, we're getting 4 points in here. So this is going to help our boss damage, man. We don't really care that much about the mana gained on kill because Mana Strike isn't really killing things. But when we hit a rare or a boss is something that's very nice because, yeah, bosses, you want to get your mana back really fast so you have that smooth, you know, consistent meteor uptime, right? Okay, and then spark charges, you want to at least have 100% spark chance to hit, cast spark on hit. So I got 75% here. You can get it on gear too, right? So some option there, and I have 15% of my idle, and then I have another 2 points over here, 10% over here, right? So then that gives me 100% chance on melee hit, which is pretty nice. You can actually get some chance on your lightning blast as well, but yeah, I guess we'll go over Lightning Blast next. Lightning Blast, originally I was coming up here and getting this final spark, so the Lightning Blast explodes the spark charge. And it was pretty nice, yeah, it's good damage, but, and it is nice to proc the meteors, right? But having this Spark Nova is a lot more, feels a lot more consistent. And then we also get this Blind Chance, and Blind Chance is really nice, a really nice defense layer. You know, there's like all these mobs that cast these spells at you, like, you know, the Wingari shamans, they'll cast their ice boulder thing, right? Usually they cast it right on top of you, but if they're blinded, sometimes you just like cast it like all the way over here, or like here, or like in some random direction, right? So blind is pretty nice defense layer, and we're getting this we have like 100% uptime on it, so that's pretty nice. All right, so Lightning Blast, first of all, we're coming down here, so we get the base crit, right? Base crit on Lightning Blast, and then we get this Lightning Aegis, 10% chance, very nice. Lightning Aegis is actually going to be increasing our meteor damage because we actually do have a little bit of lightning spell damage, right? So we got 23 here, and then we have 13 here. So whenever Lightning Aegis is up, we are actually doing more damage with our meteor. All right, and then we have the +4 chain, and then we have the repeats to the for, you know, the first target it hits. So this combination is going to give us 3 hits, and it on single target. This is like one of the reasons why we're actually able to consistently be proccing our meteors, is because, you know, the combo of Mana Strike hitting, and then all of the proc effects hitting, and then our Lightning Blast also hitting 3 times, and Lightning Blast does have a very high crit chance. So I did try without this, and there's a lot of times I did go up to like this, you know, chaining range to make, you know, AoE clear a little bit better, and yeah, it's okay. But then you get to the point where, you know, against single target you get to this, you're only getting 1 Lightning Blast hit, so then the actual proc rate of meteor did kind of like go down the drain when I expected this. So at the end of the day, you know, sacrifice a little bit of AoE clear, and to be honest, it's not even all that great AoE clear, because you see Lightning Blast only about, you know, 7,000 damage. So, and meteor does clear in a pretty big area. It's to be casted over here. It's you know, this pretty big circle that it's going to be clearing, and when we're proccing 3 of these, you know, it's you know, it covers the whole screen basically. So meteor is pretty much enough for clearing. All right, and speaking of meteor, let's go into the meteor tree. So our meteor is, let's just say it is doing, I think we looked at it before, it was about like 55k. Okay, so with Flame Ward about 55k. Let's see if we can actually get both of them up. All right, so with this 56k, right? Okay, so let's just say it's 50k for the sake of like simple math, right? So we have 1 meteor here, coming down here to get the number of meteors +1. This does give it a +70 to mana cost. And you might be thinking that, you know, well, why don't we just not use this whole part here because of the mana cost? But, and I did try that, and it's okay, but I mean, these nodes are just too good to pass up. So let's just take a look here. We got 1 meteor here, 3 meteors here, 1 more meteor here. It's a total of 5 meteors from here, and the base meteor. So that's 6 meteors, right? Without this node, meteor costs 50 mana. So it's gonna be like what, 350 mana to get 6. or no, 300 mana, right? But we do 126 mana, we get 6 meteors. Seems like a good deal. So that 50k damage ends up being, you know, times 6 every time we're proccing meteor. So even though the tooltip isn't really like super high, we are definitely doing over 200k DPS with meteor whenever it procs, and we're proccing it about 3 times, almost like per second, three times per second. So just take that into consideration for the actual like DPS. More like about I'd say 500 to 600k DPS just on the meteor. All right, so this is just like, I guess, the additional meteor part, and then we have the base crit chance. Very nice. The large meteor chance. When this procs, this can like go up to like, you know, 20 to like 30, 40k crits when this large meteor procs. And then we have the crit multi. Okay, so pretty simple. Then after that, I went for the Craterborn maxed out. That's 75% fire penetration. This is a really big, and this does proc from the, you do get Craterborn when you proc meteor with the belt. So you don't actually have to cast meteor to get this buff. It'll be up like 100% of the time. And I did experiment some other things, by the way. So I did try this shrapnel, which was pretty bad. I did try going up into this area here to just, you know, get more damage, see which one was better. And in the end, the tooltip DPS was better with Craterborn. So that's what I've been going with. Okay, so after that, we'll go for a Enchant Weapon. And Enchant Weapon is pretty simple here. We're going for the attack speed first of all, and then we're going for the duration, you know, mana cost. And then this node here, so our mana strike is actually getting a lot of base lightning damage based on our mana. So when we're full mana, you can see it is 3-3, about 3k damage per second. But when we're not at full mana, you see this goes down by quite a bit, and that's because, you know, we're losing the flat added damage. But if we activate our Enchant Weapon when we are low mana, we do get a little bit more damage. So this node over here kind of balances out the downsides of this node when we're at low mana, so it's kind of nice to have. And honestly, there really wasn't that many other good points, things to put into it. So initially I was coming over here and getting these icicles, you know, so maybe we get some more procs, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really that impactful. And I think going for the shock chance was a lot better, because if we're actually stunning enemies, then it is very nice. Like when we're attacking with our mana strike, and then we proc the lightning blast, and then we get a lot of different hits in that are lightning, so they all shock, and then we have a high chance to stun, so we can stun these enemies that are approaching, and we stun them, and then the meteors fall on top of them, right? So this stun into meteor kind of combo is really nice, and I do want to get more stun chance, more shock. I have enough shock chance, I think. I want to get some more stun chance into the build. I think that will be really nice for defense. All right, and then after that, I had one point left over, so just putting it into this little bit of extra added lightning damage. You could go for zap, I guess, too, but like I said, I do want to be playing in range, so I did actually play with this, with the maxed out zap. It was pretty cool, but it's kind of up to you what you want to do with that last point. All right, so that is the Enchant Weapon. Let's go over Flame Ward. So up till now, I was actually using Teleport. Right, so I was using Teleport, just going in, you know, for the usual stuff, the free spell, and then the stun immunity, and it was pretty nice. But like I said, the problem with Teleport is a lot of times when you want to teleport, you're going to be at negative mana, so you're not actually going to be able to teleport. And since this build is sort of like a turret build, we're just going to be standing our ground, attacking, stacking up to like thousands and thousands of ward. Really don't really need teleport, you know, and getting more tools to, you know, help us stand our ground and just cast our mana strike and meteors at the end of the day did feel a lot better. So if you do go for teleport, one nice thing you can do is you can teleport and then you can do your meteor, right? So that's going to give you, I guess we'll go over it now, but we'll go over this later too, but the Sorcerer Masteries, right? So we get this increased spell damage and ward retention, and it doubles if we've used a skill that costs over 40 mana, right? But now I decided to go into Flame Ward, and the reason for that is I wanted to have more defense, and Flame Ward is actually giving quite a lot of damage. You can see at the tooltip, 24, let's just say 25 or 24k DPS with Flame Ward 33. So basically adds another 10k DPS onto the meteor. Pretty insane. And so let's just take a look at what we did. So we're just going for full damage here, 250% more fire damage, and then another 10 flat added spell damage. Like I said before, this build is lacking in flat added damage, so any kind of flat added damage you get is going to be really good. All right, and then we have points here. I might take 1 point, this point here, and put it into the duration, just because I want this as high of an uptime I can on this Flame Ward. And then, yeah, so then after that, we're just going to the ward retention. And because we are going to be generating so much ward on this build, getting more ward retention is going to allow us to get, push 5 to about 10k ward when we're in combat and hitting a lot of things. All right, and after that, we're just going for the, reduce elemental damage taken and some extra damage reduction. All right, so let's go over some of the passives. First of all, we'll start off with the mage tree. First, we just want to get the intelligence here, and we're just basically traveling all the way up to the attack speed, and then this ward retention node here. I did try out this arcane current, which was actually pretty cool. If you have like 6 points in here, it shoots out these 6 lightning bolts. That's kind of cool, right? And they have 100% crit chance, so it's kind of maybe an option you can think of going into if you want to get some more on hit chance and stuff like that. It is locked between a 5-second cooldown. I'm not really sure if cooldown recovery affects this, but if it did, could be very good if you are having a lot of cooldown recovery. Anyway, so this skill tree is sort of still a work in progress. I'm changing it like pretty much every couple hours, just testing different things out. But it's sort of what I settled on, and so I do want to get more points into this knowledge of destruction for the crit multi and crit chance, but I only have 1 point here for now. Let's go into sorcerer. We're getting the mana and the armor. Armor very nice, mana very nice too. And then we're getting this intelligence, and then the increased spell crit per intelligence. And then we have this afterglow with the increased spell damage and ward retention. Then we just need 1 more point actually to be able to reach these nodes over here. So we put 1 into this increased lightning damage and shock chance. Now I guess you could go for this fire damage, but I just wanted to have some extra shock chance, so just put it into here. And then we have this crackling precision. This is an amazing node, so it gives us 160% crit chance for lightning spells. And all of our spells are lightning basically. Well, I guess except for meteor, but all of our generators, you could say, right? The spells that we're using to actually proc meteor are all lightning. So we have the lightning blast, mana strike, and then we also have this spark nova. That's also lightning. And then we also have the static charge thing, I think, right? These spark charges, these are lightning, right? So very nice node over here. All right, then we have the crit multi, and then the distant spark for the spark nova. All right, and then here we're just getting this intelligence node here, and the spell damage, and the value is tripled if we have over 200 mana, so this ends up being 15 spell damage. It's very nice. Ideally, I might want to actually go for this cooldown recovery, because this will probably give me 100% uptime on my enchant weapon. Alright, let's see. So, Spellblade. In Spellblade, we're getting this ward when we use an elemental melee attack and hit at least 1 enemy, so that's pretty nice. And then we have this elemental affinity, which is going to give us resistance and elemental damage. And then just 1 point here into elemental strikes. This is sort of like a travel node that we need. And then we're going to go into arcane shielding, 5 points here, and then 5 points into shattered aegis for the... And basically, I just wanted to get more armor, so I put points into here. You could take points out of this and just have 1 point in here if you need points for some other spells, like say you wanted to go for the cooldown recovery or more spark charges on hit, you could take some points out of here. Right, so then after that, Stormblade for the spark charge on hit, and then obviously we want to get this attack speed. So that's kind of the passives that I've been using for now. In the future, like I said, I want to get more of this crit multi, possibly. Another very interesting option I found was these two nodes here, with this increased fire damage and increased lightning damage. So you deal increased fire lightning damage, right? And then you gain ward when you use a lightning skill or a fire skill. So this procs off of our meteor. Because it doesn't say directly, right? So this is actually proccing from Meteor, I believe, and then also from our Lightning Blast and our Mana Strike. So we're getting both benefits, right? It has a 10-second cooldown, right? Okay. But we can gain ward from both of them at the same time. And then we can reduce the cooldown here and increase the ward gain. So I was trying this out, and it did kind of like, it was okay, right? Wasn't like really good, but it was okay. Now, my blessings are really not complete yet. So let's see. We have the increased crit chance. Pretty nice. I think the crit multi would probably be better at the end of the day once you get more crit on your gear. And then I have some necrotic resistance. I got the increased fire damage, some fizz resistance, and then the ward per second. This one is probably the best one you can get from Lagon, so that's kind of nice. But ideally, I would want to get the flat armor, and then the increased armor, and the crit multi, right? And then I'd have to kind of like sort out my gear, because I'm getting a lot of physical and necrotic resistance from my blessings, right? So actually at 0 poison res, and this is really annoying. Do want to get some of this at some point, but anyways, so that is the blessings, the gear. We went over everything, I think, and yeah, I think we don't want to make this video too long. It already is going to be very long, but this is sort of the first iteration of this mage sorcerer, the sorcerer Spellblade, casting the meatballs, the meteors, and we'll definitely be playing this build quite a bit more, upgrading it and taking it into higher levels of corruption. But yeah, this build is very fun for me to play, probably one of the funnest builds I've played in last Epoch. So I wanted to make a video with the, you know, the current state of the gear, so you guys can make this build too if you want. And yeah, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe, really helps me out in making new videos. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.